My name is Binh Danh. I'm an artist. I live in Gilroy, California. I also teach. I teach at San Jose State University. I teach photography, and I like making photographs. I was born in Vietnam in 1977, 2 years after the Vietnam War. After the war, my parents didn't want to live under the communism regime, so we escaped as refugees known as Bo people. So we spent about a year in the refugee camp seeking asylum, and in 1979, the U.S. Accepted us as refugee status. So then we emigrated to this country and started a new life here in the Bay Area. What drew me to photography early on in my childhood was just growing up being surrounded by photographs, and most of the time they're actually photographs of the Vietnam War. I was trying to understand that from a child's perspective, where I was coming from, where I was my family's history. My parents never really explained what happened, and I don't think they fully understand what really happened, but they understand that they were in a conflict zone throughout their adulthood. My understanding of landscape photography came through pictures of war. So I will see pictures of the landscape in Hollywood movies of the Vietnam War, as well as photographs from journalists photographing the war. So I always have this association with the landscape in warfare. And my early body's work really focused on that. It was looking through the photographic archives of the Vietnam War and putting these pictures onto leaves by using the chlorophyll within the plant's pigment. So I was thinking about how does the war continue to live on in the landscape. In 2012, I wanted to start this project of going into the national park, photographing with the daguerreotype process. And one of the unique quality of the daguerreotype is that it's on a mirror surface. At that time, I also was thinking about how does my body fit into this landscape? And with the idea of the daguerreotype, it was a way for myself as well as for my viewer to see themselves as part of this land, to literally see themselves in El Capitan or Yosemite Falls, and to think about their relationship to the United States, to think about their sense of belonging. Everyone wants to belong, and of course there's moments in our lives when we feel like we don't belong. It might be a period of time, it might be in a particular space. I think about indigenous population, I think about Native American when I go into national park too, and some of the didactic help Americans remember that this place was also inhabited by other groups of people before it became the United States of America. So all that complexity kind of comes into play, and it hopefully doesn't simplify the complexity of being an American. Experimentation is the part of my practice that sort of sometimes makes me want to pull out my hair. But it sets up the challenge, to making daguerreotypes in the 21st century. And there's a lot of experimentation that goes on in understanding this process. Daguerreotypes are the first photographic process invented in 1839 by a Frenchman named Louis Daguerre. So imagine a time that there was no photography at all, and then this invention came out. What it is a sheet of copper plated with silver and made light sensitive by exposing the silver surface to iodine vapor. And when it becomes light sensitive, it's exposed into the camera, and then the images develop over warm mercury. And then you gild the plate with gold chloride, and you have something called daguerreotype. So all that requires experimentation and understanding. If you do one thing, you get this result. If you do another thing, you get this result. And sometimes you do the same thing over and you still get a different result. Creativity is the ability to use your imagination and then making it happen in actual material. So then you could communicate that idea to your audience. So that's where the creativity exists to me, even though it's within the work, it's within the making of it, but it's also within the engagement of the work with an audience. Innovation is an improvement of things. And as an artist, I'm always trying to improve on my photographic processes, on my practice as a photographer working with 19th century and very alternative processes. You know, my work doesn't always give answer, but it hopefully raise questions. The moment you make a photograph, that moment is gone, and that moment sort of is now in the past. So all that sort of comes into play when I think about the work I do. It's all about memories, it's all about past, but it's also about the future people, the future idea of the work and how people understand the time we live in.